The Irish establishment are gearing up to inflict another decade of cuts to working people. Let's remind ourselves of how the Irish establishment made workers pay for the last crisis. Between 2008 and 2013, right-wing governments of Fianna Fáil and the Greens, followed by Fine Gael and the Labour Party, engaged in a ruthless and highly ideological strategy to protect the elites in banking, construction and tax haven industries. They gave a blanket bank guarantee that cost taxpayers €64 billion in capital injections and €42 billion overall. They created NAMA and carried out a frenzied sale of €200 billion worth of public property to international vulture funds at knockdown prices, while paying the bailed out developers like Johnny Ronan huge salaries to manage the portfolios. They robbed the Irish Pension Reserve Fund of €17.5 billion and forced another €67.5 billion onto taxpayers' shoulders. They kept the corporation tax rate at 12.5%, the lowest in the OECD, and most corporations paid less than half that rate. They left big employers' social insurance contributions at 10.95%, the lowest in the EU 15. They introduced a universal social charge instead of extra rate of income tax on high earners. They imposed a tax on the family home instead of a general tax on accumulated wealth. They even tried to give away our water resources to Dennis O'Brien while charging us on the double. The establishment shifted the burden of paying for the economic collapse directly onto working people with extra taxes and cuts to public services of €29.4 billion. The tax burden on PAYE workers, for example, went from €8.5 billion in 2011 to €17.7 billion in 2018. This amounts to extra tax paid by PAYE workers of €4 billion in 2018 alone. The state also teamed up with the bosses to ramp up work intensity by cutting wages in jobs and introducing technology so that labour productivity increased by 34% from 2010 to 2017, at the same time as labour costs fell by 17%. The share of national income going to workers also fell dramatically. Fewer workers were forced to work more intensely for less pay, and the net result was the overall wage costs fell by 8%, which was mirrored by an increase in profits of more than 8%. All the while, 350,000 workers were forced to emigrate. After a decade of cuts and outsourcing, state provision of public services in Ireland is extremely low. Eurostat figures show that Ireland is a laggard when it comes to public services, spending €13 billion less than we should compared to the EU average. At the same time, deprivation and poverty rates have soared. According to the Central Statistics Office, during the years of austerity, the poverty rate went up by 50%, at the same time as the deprivation rate went up by 33%. In 2010, for example, those in the lowest income band saw their disposable income fall by more than 26%, while those in the highest income band saw their disposable income rise by 8%. The last decade was a tale of two halves for the Irish economy. In the first 5 years after 2008, the elites forced down the cost of doing business through wage cuts, higher productivity and austerity. In the second 5 years, they siphoned off the vast bulk of the recovery with corporation profits, higher earnings and accumulated household wealth. Between 2013 and 2017, gross profits in Ireland more than doubled from €83 billion to €167 billion. Furthermore, in 2017, less than 50% of this, or €80 billion, was considered taxable due to loopholes, meaning that only €8 billion net tax was actually paid, giving an effective tax rate of less than 5%. While many small businesses will need support in the coming crisis, big corporations will need to be taxed much more to pay for this crisis. Alongside the increase in corporation profits, there has been a massive increase in the incomes of the wealthiest households. Judging by revenue data, the number of households earning more than €100,000 have increased from 95,500 to 206,500 over the last 7 years. It also shows that this group of high earners are now taking home 31% of all pre-tax income, as against 22% in 2013. The Irish Central Bank has shown that for the first time ever, Irish household wealth has surpassed €800 billion, equating to €163,000 per person, or more than €500,000 per household. Given that the bottom 25% of the population have zero wealth, the lowest 50% of the population only have about 7% of the wealth, and the top 10% have over 48% of the wealth, it would be obscene not to impose a solidarity wealth tax on the richest households in Irish society, those who escaped the worst effects of the previous crisis and benefited most from the recovery. The last decade proves one single undeniable truth, that austerity was a political choice, one made on behalf of a decrepit minority of crooked elites to force workers and the most vulnerable to pick up the cost of their failed system. The capitalist class is highly organised in the form of corporations and the state itself. It's time for all workers to get unionised and get active inside their unions so that the bureaucrats can't sell us out again. This time, we need to be ready. We know what they have in store for us. The question is, will we take it lying down like dogs, or will we get organised to fight back?